Welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. Here we'll talk to the leaders in technology, culture, business, and the arts. We'll cover politics, advocacy, motherhood, writing, mental health, and mostly we'll focus on hope. Join Kim B. Davis, author, playwright, radio personality, event consultant, professional speaker on the Kim B. Davis Show. Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests, Dr.Angela Celeste May. She is our clinical, organizational, and forensically trained psychologist. She is an author. She's a musician. She's also the president of the Michigan Psychological Association Foundation Board. And this evening, we're going to talk about Let's Celebrate, because it's my birthday month and I've been celebrating all month. So good evening, Dr. Angie. How are you?
Good evening, my fellow Cancer. I'm fantastic. I totally am right there with you. I totally agree with celebrating all month long as a fellow July birthday baby. Absolutely. Doing great.
Excellent. So, birthdays, I believe, are an important time in a person's life. And this July, especially still in COVID, it keeps rearing its head. I'm like, will you just go away?
I know.
But I've been contemplative. And I thought about it because people kept saying to me, Kim, that's wonderful. You celebrate for an entire month. And I would say to them, do you celebrate your birthday? Well, I'm busy, or I have this, or I have that. And I thought, you don't take at least one day to let people pour into you or to do something solely for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it started a bigger conversation where a girlfriend of mine, we were talking and she said, well, Kim, when people say to you, oh, that's a beautiful dress you have on, or, oh, you speak really well, not in that racist type of way that people are trying to figure you out, but you did a great job on a presentation, or you spoke really well on the radio, or you were on television or something, and they're complimenting you on it. And oftentimes, what do? We minimize whatever the compliment is. And I said to her, why do we do that? Why is it so difficult to just say thank you? And then I'm watching the Olympics, and Simone Biles stepped out of the gymnastics finals. She stepped out of the group competition because she didn't feel that she could do well, and she gave other people an opportunity. And now she has stepped out of the individual competition.
Yes.
And it's interesting to me because she has talked about the importance of her mental health, that this has to be for her and not for other people. I've been reading articles that have said that, in gymnastics, you are taught that your body does not belong to you, that it is, for the trainer, that it is for your team. And I am taken back to an Olympics that I believe happened in the 90s or maybe early 2000s, where Carrie Strug went and, against probably a better decision, decided to compete. And she was having leg problems and ended up injuring herself and having to retire. And the moment she's standing up, the United States team wins gold, and she's crying, and everybody thinks, oh, she's got the heart of a champion. She pushed through. But so many times we're told, well, just push through, instead of let's work on whatever it is that is bothering us.
Exactly.
And so again, because it's our birthday month, and I've been contemplative, I started to think, I do a lot for other people. It's okay for me to slow down and take care of me.
That's right.
When Naomi Osaka said, I'm an introvert and it is uncomfortable for me to do interviews, and people felt offended because they felt like they should have access to her. But she says, no, I need my own space. And if I have to pull out, then I'll pull out. And I thought, you know what? Bravo to her, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not about money. It's not about the championships. It is
Mm-hmm.
about your health and where
Absolutely.
you are in your mental space. And if your mental well being is off, everything else is off. It doesn't matter. And we see it every day when we see people on the street talking to themselves and we go, oh, what happened to them? Or, oh, what's wrong with them? Their mental well being has been.
Absolutely.
Can you, and I know I've given you a lot, but I just really want to talk about the importance of taking care of ourselves in the moment that we're seeing. Is this just a cultural moment or is this a shift? And I believe it's a shift, but you tell me what you think.
Okay. Well, I love it when you give me a lot. So that's wonderful. First thing I'm going to do is bend down and plug my laptop in so it doesn't cut off
Yes,
because I want to dive into this. I apologize.
no problem.
Okay, didn't take too long.
Nope.
Well, first of all, as I plug this in, I completely agree with you. I definitely see this as a cultural shift. And I have to say, sometimes, we don't see, oftentimes we don't see cultural shifts when they start, or we don't always recognize them because there may be, a little here, a little there, one or two people here, pockets, and it may be not enough for us to recognize, generally the general public to recognize that this might be, the start of something and not just a few pockets. But I definitely agree it's a cultural shift and one that's been building for some time, a little at a time or over time.
Mhm.
Um, it's not health related in one sense, but it is in another sense. In terms of what I mean is, I was thinking about Muhammad Ali
Mhm.
and Muhammad Ali making very consequential decisions for him based on his values. It wasn't based on a health issue, but not going to Vietnam, willing to be, he was in the middle of a career, a growing career also as well, when he stepped away, knowing he could be jailed for that. Just the ways in which, and he's just but one example. He's a huge example, of course. The two gentlemen who stood on the
Mhm. The
and
Olympic Games.
shame on me for not being able to just like rattle off their names. I apologize for that. But the connection for those people that we view and speak of as activists, and the trend we're seeing now of these athletes and others with public platforms, but we're really seeing it, I think, more recently in terms of athletes. I've seen commercials. I don't know if you've seen them with basketball players, football players, talking about battling depression, talking about anxiety, in commercials within the last year or so, which is new. That part of it's kind of new, but just this thread of, I'm going to put my values above, like you said, money, the demands of the sport, the demands of the career, and all of that. So in some ways, it's been building from an activist perspective, I would say.
Mhm.
And then in the recent several years, we've people in my profession, my fellow psychologists, social workers, counselors, psychiatrists, people who are in the mental health field, as well as others, educators, and others, but definitely people within the field and people with family members or who themselves have experienced not just mental illness and we all understand mental stress, et cetera, but to the point where it's beginning to interrupt their lives and all of that. For people who've experienced that, as well as the stigma of it, we've been fighting for, time immemorial to get that stigma removed. And so I really feel that I definitely agree with you because I think it's all connected. When we think about when the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, that's, another step, how many years ago towards what we're seeing now. It's common now And we have an expectation that you're going to see what they call those curve cuts, those little built-in ramps in the concrete. That wasn't always the case. People had to fight to get that. And all the other ways in which, again, little bit by little bit, fighting against stigma of physical disability goes hand in hand with fighting. This may be, it almost feels like it's like part of the last battlefield, the final front is the final frontier of fighting to stand up for our health. One of the final frontiers is mental health, which, has had such a stigma. And again, it's just this thread, through time. And, unfortunately, we do live in a world in which everyone doesn't necessarily have access to or can get a large platform so that everyone can hear this, this is what's going on. It's so important. But again, I think of, remember Brooke Shields? Remember when she had when she had her baby? Postpartum depression. And she wrote a book about it and talked about it. And this is something that's been going on for, how long? And people in my profession, psychologists and medical doctors, people are aware of that. But so many, even doctors, how many have said it's all in your mind, just go home, you'll be okay, all of that, all of that. So I do see it as what's going on right now as, a trajectory, more and more. It's becoming finally, thankfully, little by little more, we're becoming more educated, more knowledgeable, we're understanding more from those who are going through these things, that it is not, that it should not be stigmatized, that it does happen, that it happens much more frequently to people, than one might think. And that therefore, all the more reason that if it only happened to one person, that one person should be able to take care of themselves without suffering backlash. But multiply that by the fact that this is just something that is a natural part of dealing with stress and strain of life. And if you're living in a competitive environment, even more so with a lot of weight on your shoulders. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a cultural shift. And we've needed all of those steps along the way to get here, for standing up for your values, no matter what it has to do, for fighting to be heard, no matter what it may have to do with, to fighting for the rights of people with disabilities, finally recognizing the mental unseen, as they say, the unseen health issues. So yeah, I definitely agree that it's a cultural shift. Something else I wanted to say too, and I just, because I've been thinking about this also, I mean, as many of us have been with what's been going on in the news and stuff, I just celebrate. I celebrate the not only their bravery in these athletes standing up and saying this and others, but you can really see if it's a cultural shift or the degree to which, how far we've come when we see how much support, how much public support that lets you know it's getting to the citizen level. Like, people are understanding it's important to support these people because they are us and we're them, and to do it publicly. So that is fantastic. But I also wanted to just kind of put in context, because like I said, I've been thinking about this, what it really means. And we're not in that particular profession. We're not gymnasts. We're not elite athletes. With these, that's not what we do. We do other amazing, wonderful things. But when I was thinking about the context of this and what it really means when we say how brave it is, on the one level, we understand that it's brave because you are risking your reputation because of the stigma of mental illness. You are risking, and they've gotten some backlash as well as the support. Risking the backlash, they really, truly, have care about their teams, the country for whom they are performing, playing or doing gymnastics, etc. They know the time and energy that their coaches have put in, their families have put in. So there's all of that that weighs on them when they say, I'm going to step away in some, in some manner. I think thinking about that kind of brings home a little bit more why we say it really takes a lot of guts to do that in addition to the stigma. But then I take it even a step further. I think what a lot of people don't understand who are on the, we're fans, like, watching, but a lot of what we don't understand is that those reporters, for every reporter there, they have deadlines,
Mm-hmm.
they have editors.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they make their money. This is how they pay their bills. And so there's a whole chain within the news organization, the reporting, the way they get paid, the way that there's a whole, business structure and people's livelihoods.
Mm-hmm.
That is also a part of that. And these young ladies, in this instance, but these athletes who are, this is what they do, they know that. So it's feeling like, as you said, the mental training of, in order to really do this at the level that they are doing this, to get to that point, that's years and years of an ingrained idea, like you said, of with gymnastics, who your body belongs to. But I would say it's true for all the elite sports also. And that's years of work and money that's been put into it, and sacrifices for yourself and your family and the coaches, and if you're on the team, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the reporters, and then so there's a whole chain that they know is going to have to come to a screeching halt, or and this is not to say that the reporters have a right to it, but just in terms of understanding what the structure is, so that we can better understand not only the nature of the pressure, but recognize that, okay, we know to understand the structure so we can change it.
Mm-hmm.
We can figure out some other ways in which that journalists from around the world can get their story, rather than, I've marveled at this for years, just in general anyway. When someone is coming off the court, or off of, playing, or whatever, they've had a horrible defeat or whatever the case, we always hear this, wow, what a professional, because they're required talk. Well, we don't understand, I think a lot of times, who are not in the sports, is that talking to reporters, it is in their contracts. Like, that's literally that really is part of your job.
Mm-hmm.
And it does sound cold and callous, and it may likely be cold and callous, but it's not just an expression, to say that you're supposed to, like, no, that's actually in your contract that you sign. So it goes even deeper, and it's something that's necessary to look at. We need to change the nature of those contracts. We need to change the requirements of these athletes, who are human first. They're not just money-making machines, so there's a lot of layers there. Mm-hmm. that really help bring home, I think even more so, that we're not exaggerating when we say that these young people in particular, that's a lot of bravery. That really is, it takes a lot to stand up and do that. Mm-hmm. Because it does, in a lot of ways, it does go against values one set of values, I should say, that they've been, raised with and ingrained with, as far as what a responsible athlete does. Mm-hmm. So but it's good to see it. It's good to see it happening.
It really is. And it's funny because so you're right. You watch a game, the team that loses, well, how do you feel? That to me is always right.
So what are you going to do next?
Exactly. I'm like, they lost. You can see it on their face, but they still have to be professional, and then break apart their play and say, well, I didn't do this, or this person did this, or the defense wasn't here, or the offense was out, whatever. And I admire people, because because if it was me, I'd be like, leave me alone, stop talking to me. But I understand it's in your contract. And I believe it was Marshawn Lynch, who plays football. He had an issue, and the NFL had fined him because he said, I don't want to have to go talk to reporters. And so they told him, either you're going to pay this fine, or you're going to show up. And so he showed up and he said at a press conference, and I'll never forget it because it was classic. He said, I was told to be here.
I
Every
remember that.
I
I
was told
remember
to
that.
be here. And people were mad. I'm like, but why are you mad? Because everybody doesn't want to have to talk to you. One, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, baseball, tennis, gymnastics, swimming, whatever it is, you get
Mhm.
in that zone, even as, so I'll call us, I don't want to call us, we're not Olympic athletes, but we're our own athlete where we do our own things. So when,
Absolutely.
so when we do yoga or I'm in the zone and I'm walking, I don't want to talk to you. And when I get done, I don't want to. How was your walk? It was good. Now leave me alone. Let me come down from my walk. So
Right, right.
I can imagine. But you know, when you talked about Brooke Shields, I remember because there was this contrast. And you remember Tom Cruise came out
Yeah, I remember.
very
They went hand in
publicly,
hand, that whole thing. Yes,
yes,
yes.
very publicly admonishing her, telling her, you
Mhm.
need to take some vitamins and do some exercise and get you some sleep and you be all right. And I thought, okay, I like you as an actor, but you need to go sit down because you can't have a baby. She had a baby,
That's right.
hormones and everything else. You don't know what's happening in her life. And oftentimes I'll tell people, and when we have these conversations about mental health, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what
Exactly.
your title is, whatever. You could have everything. And Brooke Shields has access to everything. And she still struggles.
Absolutely.
She still
Absolutely.
struggles. And Simone
Absolutely.
Biles and Naomi Osaka have the best of everything because they're world class athletes and
Mhm.
they are still struggling. So it brings me to another point that I wanted to talk about that I have really been working very hard to improve for myself. And it is the tone of our thoughts. How do we talk to ourselves? How do we refer to ourselves? And see, Dr. Angie, I know because you're an expert, you do so well. I'm sure you don't have this issue. So I'm just gonna say that I'm sure that I have this issue because I know at times I mess up and I go, dum dum, why'd you do that? And then I have to think, I have to stop calling myself that. I have to stop referring to myself as that because somewhere inside my mind, I'm
Mhm.
storing that. And so then I get anxious, afraid, um, uh, I'm drawing a blank for the word where I start to procrastinate. That's the word. Thank you.
Oh,
I
putting things off.
procrastinate because I'm afraid to do something. In the back of
Mhm.
my head, I'm thinking I'm not smart enough. Now, when I take that thought and I go, okay, well, where did that thought come from? Well, you just referred to yourself as dumb dumb, even though it might have been something really, really simple. And I was
Mhm.
joking or laughing, like, oh, that was really dumb. Whatever I did might have been, but not necessarily me. And so
Mhm.
I think about the tone of thoughts and the negativity that goes with that, which talks or which deals with how we talk to ourselves, how we refer to ourselves. And when you
Yes.
talked about Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, I will tell you that Black Twitter has upheld them both. Black Twitter came
Yes.
out and said, we love you. We support you. There were gymnasts that I saw on Simone Biles' Twitter page because I do follow her. And they were telling her, bravo, we applaud you. Do what you have to do because you can be injured. You can
That's
always
right.
come back. All these positive things. And I said, that's what we need for each other. We have to be able to uplift each other. And so
Mhm.
when you brought up Brooke Shields, I said, that was a very public moment
It
where
was.
another Hollywood star, instead of admonishing her, saying, this is what you need to do, what would have been a better thing would have been Tom Cruise to say, Brooke Shields, I hear you. As one of the biggest movie stars in the world, I hear you. And guess what?
Mhm.
I support you. You could have had that conversation in private to say, well, you need to do this, this, and this. But he could have said, I support you. And that could have pushed that conversation so much further ahead. Whereas you said, doctors will tell you, and I've had friends who said the same thing, it's all in your head because
Mhm.
doctors don't always listen to you.
Absolutely, yeah. Unfortunately, and I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but I know you were thinking man doctors.
I was,
And
but there
you're
are
not the only one. You're not the only one. So I'll go ahead and say it. You're not the only one. But because I say that, and not every man, but it's like anything else. You know, if you haven't walked in those moccasins, it's gonna take a little bit more for you to get to the place where you can try to understand and kind of be an ally. So it's like I've said to as I say to people, and I've said to students over the years, you know, psychology students, and not even just students, even being on the board of Michigan Psych Association Foundation, um, just reminding people and just bringing into the conversation of this idea that, you know, every time you have new voices or added more diverse voices into any profession, you're going to broaden the lens and get more understanding about what's going on. So for our man doctors out there, for so long, who told themselves, each other, and their patients that, you know, what's all in their heads. Um, uh, what has started to change some of that is more women in the profession. Just, you know, so we need to be open to those, you know, to understand we don't know everything, and that we have more people and each other, like you said, to learn from. Um, not to speak for Tom Cruise, but let me speak for Tom Cruise. No, not Tom Cruise, but I totally hear what you're saying and agree with you. There's a way to do some things,
Mhm.
you know, to like tell her privately and then publicly. But as you were saying it, to say, you know, your suggestion, what he could have done is, you know, say aloud, "I support you." And I was thinking, you're absolutely right. But then I was also thinking, I don't know if he could have done that. I mean, I don't believe in limiting, you know, all things are possible, but
Mhm.
where he was at that time,
Yeah.
I don't know if he had what it would take to do that. Um, because in just this is just from what I've read now, you know, his belief system and all of
Yeah.
that. In
Mhm.
his mind, he was being an advocate.
Mhm.
You know, he thought he was helping her. You know,
Mhm.
I'm being an advocate. I'm going to publicly, and you people, you know, the rest of you shouldn't, you know, make this mistake she's making and stop believing in psychiatry or whatever, like it's a religion or whatever the case, you know.
Mhm.
So I think you're absolutely right. But I also think that it's also, as you say, as we dig deeper in asking ourselves questions and each other and learning more. I have a friend who says, "Ask the wise." She's a social worker, and I love that. She always says, "Ask the wise." That's how she says it. And I was certainly raised to, you know, as always, you know, why, why, and, and to dig into that. Um, Earlier, you were saying that because I'm a professional, I don't, you know, fall victim to that. And I have to say, you know, that I don't fall victim to that, but not because I'm a professional.
Mhm.
That totally comes from the way I was raised.
Mhm.
Absolutely, that comes from the way I was raised, and I can't, I consciously practice it. Some, you know, sometimes, you know, we get hard on ourselves, and I even recently I was on a walk, and I was thinking about something, and I was like, oh man. And I make a point of, I like really almost never call myself a name,
Mhm.
because mom wouldn't want me to call myself a name, and my dad wouldn't want me to call my, you know, people who love me. So I'm supposed to love myself. So that, you know, so I really make a point of saying, oh, that was so stupid. Oh my, but I don't say I'm stupid.
Mhm.
So I actually, and this goes to your point, I this day, you know, earlier last week when I was walking, I did say, "Oh man," and I think I said something like "dumb" or whatever it was, and I apologized to myself immediately.
Good. Very good.
You know, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. What
Mhm.
I did was stupid, but I am not. You know, absolutely not.
Mhm.
So I definitely, it is and psychologists do teach it, you know, definitely, but yeah, that came from the way I was raised, and seeing it modeled. um Give yourself room, you know, to make mistakes, and treat yourself the way you are treating the, you know, think of who you love the most, those you whom you love the most, your children, your husband, your kitty cat, Priscilla, whomever, whomever it may be, you know, and you know, we're not perfect at the art of loving one another. We make mistakes and all true, but in our trying, we try to do our best. That's one way of developing, one little tool for developing that habit that you're talking about. That's so important. I love that you're doing that. And we all should be doing that. One tool for developing that habit of positive self-talk and supporting ourselves and not putting ourselves down is to always try to think of whom you love the most and remind yourself to love yourself and treat yourself the way you not only want and do try to treat those others outside of you, but the way that we teach people to, the way if you're not raising kids, you know, that you teach your kids that, but if you're someone who's not raising kids, you may tell your niece that or whomever, practice what you preach towards yourself. So, and apologize to yourself sometimes. Absolutely. You're worth it, you know. And I shouldn't. I'm sorry. That's not true.
We are God's temple, and if our bodies are a temple, we should treat it as such. And that's right. And it's interesting because I teach my boys that, and I tell them, you know, when they say stuff, you know, especially my oldest, he likes to say things to his baby brother, and his baby brother likes to cut him, and he's just like, oh, and I'm like, stop. We don't say things like that. Apologize. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. We were always made to apologize to each other. Always. They'll come back, stand here. What did you say? That's right.
And we talk about it. We talk about it so that they really understand what it is that they did was wrong and hurtful. I stress to them, you two are all you have. You're brothers. You are going to be each other's best friend. If you two are the last two people on earth, guess what? You got to learn how to get along, take care of each other. So, you know, we got to work this out.
Yes.
But it's interesting that you said the quote that you said about loving yourself like you would love someone else. And someone else said that to me, and I said, oh, that's powerful. Because if I think about how I love my children, or how I love my husband, or how I love my best friends, why wouldn't I treat myself
exactly
as such? And it was an eye opener, and I thought, oh, I've been mistaking or not taking care of myself the way that I need to, because I keep putting myself to the side for other people. And you can't do that. And absolutely. Sometimes when we care about people, we want to do and do and do, but it comes at our expense, which means that we're no good to anybody because we're not good to them, and then we're not good to anybody else.
Exactly.
And it brings me back to that saying, what we hear on the airport or on the airplane, I'm sorry, excuse me, where it says, all right, now, if there's a drop in cabin pressure and the mask fall, put on your mask first.
That's right.
Put it on someone else. Meaning, don't put it on your child first. Because then if you pass out, then your 6-year-old or your 3-year-old or however is going to be sitting there looking like, okay, I don't know what to do.
Right.
I guess we going down with the plane.
Your mom?
Right. Mom, but you know, and we like to have these stories where mom is the hero, and I get it because my kids will laugh and say, yeah, my mom can do anything. And I'm always like, yeah, I don't want to, but sometimes I do.
Yes, but you can.
Right. But I do want people to get to a healthier place where we don't have to expend so much energy. We don't have to exert ourselves almost to the point of being a superhero, something that's really not obtainable to do something. What are some tips and tools, Dr. Angie, that we can use to remind ourselves to love ourselves like those that we love and to put our mask on first?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is for our fellow Christians around the world who are believers, as well as those who may not, their belief system may not say that Jesus Christ is the Savior, but they still respect him as, a world-class prophet, really, so that encompasses a lot of folks, Christians and non-alike.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus modeled the behavior for us.
Mm-hmm.
He regularly separated away from the people
Mm-hmm.
and went up and fasted and spent time with his father and got replenished to come back to the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a number one place to start. As someone who you want to talk about going through it.
Yes, he went through it. He went through it.
He went through it. And so yeah, I think that's the top place to start right there. And along with that same category, other people whom we know of or read about, whom we may admire, as well, who I would say look to some of those people who did take care of themselves in different ways. Sometimes the people we love and admire the most are not the best models of having taken good care of themselves. We love and admire all they do for others, and like you say, for us and others, but they don't necessarily take the best care of themselves. So I would say Jesus Christ and others who who've tried to show that, who've tried to model that kind of behavior for the rest of us, and talk about how important it is to, like the people we talked about, the gymnasts, the athletes, some of those who publicly talk about and show and actually put their money where their mouth is and do step away. Don't let pressures or what other people have to say. I don't mean ignore it or block it out. I don't mean necessarily to that degree, depending on what the messages are, but look for people who are modeling in a positive way and doing it for themselves and encouraging the rest of us to do it, to remind you that we all need to do that it's not just, the rest of, one of the things I think, one of the negative messages we get in our ears, and we may not always recognize it as negative, but that message that, well, so-and-so went, 200 years without ever taking a nap. They're strong. So how come you can't? The idea of looking to those people who get, lots of wonderful things done and who do wonderful things for the world, but who also step away and take time for themselves is a great combat to that notion that stepping away is weak. And that strong people don't. So that's one thing I would say is look to folks who do that in a healthy way. Number one, that's one tip and tool. Second one is the one I mentioned that we were talking about, and that is to love yourself. If you just work on viewing yourself as worthy of love, the kind of love you give to others. A lot of times that may be all that you need, because you already know how to love and take care of others because you're doing it every day. So apply more of that to yourself. And that's from everything from, like you were saying, how you think about yourself, how you describe yourself, what you say to yourself, the words that you use, and your physical actions. There are times in which it's like, you know what, let me, I need to get off my feet. Let me sit down. let me take a break. That kind of thing. So that's the second thing. Think of people you love the most and apply it to yourself. Second thing. Third thing I would say is to work on finding different ways. You have to be very, very conscious about it if you're not used to taking care of yourself. If you're used to putting yourself last, or second to last or whatever, it takes as much conscious planning. Sometimes it takes a lot, sometimes it doesn't, but maybe at first, as it does for putting on this fantastic podcast, for example. The work you put into your sons, into maintaining, helping your husband maintain, health and wellness, and that the two of you put into your relationship, or that you put into your relationships with family and friends, and any of that. All of those things, she has her hair coiffed just so. The coordination. I mean, all of that took a few minutes, and it may not take hours and hours, but so that's the third thing is realize it may take a little bit of planning, And it's worth that, a little bit of planning. And what's nice about that is there's the mental component of taking that break that has to do with just planning for it. It's like, I'll tell you two things real quickly. One is, as you know, my husband and I just came back from a wonderful trip. I
Yes.
took a birthday trip at the beginning of July, and we went to Virginia, Arlington, Virginia, and DC, and we just had a wonderful time. But planning it, if you've ever planned a trip, or if you've ever, it may not be till next month or a few months, but isn't it fun? Like, it's fun to actually plan that. So that even the planning of some fun things for yourself, some time off for yourself, that in of itself is mentally, it feels good, and it helps relieve a little of the pressure. Why? Partly because you have something to look forward to, and the visualization helps you understand that it's possible. And that's something that, when you're raising kids and you're really, really busy and you're doing lots of things. I know for myself, when my husband and I were caregivers for my mom, and, and you're juggling other things and you're still working and you got projects, I know what it's like to go through a 24-hour period and literally can't find 5 minutes. But so there are times when that's really, really, really real. However, you don't want that to be the way that you live, because you will burn yourself out. So the planning, and my mom was great. My mom was wonderful. She'd be like, sit down, sit down here and watch this show with me. You need to sit, you need a break. I'm like, Mom, you're right, but I've got it, blah, blah, blah. Or she'd help me strategize. She'd be like, okay, well, what do you need? She was great. The woman was a planner, so sometimes the people that you're taking care of, sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But this, people say it all the time, recruit your family, have your kids be part of that. Who's going to do dishes on one, when they get old enough to do whatever, that delegating thing, even that's part of planning. So the trip was one example I wanted to give you. And there was another one I wanted to mention. My mom didn't give a lot of advice, because I was a little old lady at 19 when I started dating my husband. I was a little old lady in a lot of ways. So, because my mom always says, you're just like your grandma, just like grandma. So she wasn't going to give a lot of advice like that, and because she, didn't feel she needed to. But one piece of advice she gave, we were first dating, and man, it was some excellent advice that she gave that we just did forever and ever. And we recently got back to that. And that was very, very simple. I was an undergrad, he was busy, working and all kinds of stuff. Busy, busy, busy. She said, carve out, she said Friday, as an example. Make Friday date night, and just, and keep it no matter what. Keep it no matter what. And I think she was like, well, don't tell Richard, just do it. And that's what we did. We talk about it later. But sometimes those dates might be at the library because I had to finish something, and then we go grab something to eat. But a lot of times, and it was so funny because it very quickly became, that was the thing. Oh, I was going to call Richard or Angela, but it's Friday. Like people knew. We maintained that for years and years and years, just through the ups and downs. And I know, people give that advice to married couples and all that. So as we got into our marriage, years later, we were comfy at home. So home was the day, but we kind of had to revisit that a little bit. Sometimes it was, snacks at home and what's on, what's on TV. But we, in the last few years, we have gotten back to that. We would still do some dates. We do some dates here and there, and sometimes you're just too busy. But even if it's just a little thing. And so again, that planning, it doesn't have to be a trip to DC. It could be, or Virginia, or it might be what we do now, Tuesday or Wednesday-ish, right around now, midweek. What are we doing Friday? What are we watching? What are we eating? Or where are we going? So plan it, realize it may take a little bit of work, but recognize that is not a bad thing or an unusual thing, but it is important, just as you plan little to big things. You plan, you may think about what you're gonna, it's not a big to do, but you may think about what kind of sandwich you're gonna have for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
It's called planning. So planning, a lot of times I think people think big. It can be, so yeah, look to models who do healthy stuff for themselves and preach that and try to live it. And to summarize, I'll be the professor. Number two, love yourself as the way that you love the people you love the most.
Mm-hmm.
Give that to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and realize it takes some planning, but the planning, a little time for yourself can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And another one other thing about planning too, think both near term and long term.
Mm-hmm.
So plan breaks throughout the day. They say that, what is it, the thing now, it's not that it's new, but people are understanding from the medical community now that sitting for hours and hours and hours, that's as bad or worse than, as bad as smoking, that they say. So they recommend, if you sit a lot because of your job, at the end of every hour, what is it, to take 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Exactly. So built in breaks for yourself, a little break, take a little walk, or whatever the case may be, just read a little bit, whatever. So yeah, planning is both through the day, through a 24-hour period, as well as, things you can do for yourself and with people you enjoy at the end of the week, or, as well as the bigger one. So yeah, making that a habit and a part of your life. And then the last thing I'll say is a really good trick tool is, it's kind of circles back to what you said to begin with. And that is, you're working on the habit of the way you view yourself. And that's really where that's coming from. What we say to ourselves comes out of the way we view ourselves. It's exactly like you said. So people use affirmations, there are affirmation cards, and all those things are positive and wonderful. I would add to that, it's going to sound weird, it's going to feel funny, say it out loud. Say it out loud. Compliment yourself. As I've said before, say it out loud, smile in the mirror, smile at yourself. And if that feels weird, feels funny, that lets you know that you've been doing too much frowning at yourself. And just give yourself a break. And I was gonna say, write it too sometimes, the journaling, write down, we recommend, and I've said many times, gratefulness journal, or just like what you're grateful for at the end of each day for you turn in, or whatever, however you do it. Include something or things about yourself. And one more, I've got a good one more, and that is something my husband said he was talking to some family members on his side of the family, and they laugh about it, but it really made a difference. A lot of times we can get into a spiral of negative talk and we don't even realize it. Whether it's always complaining, I can't never see the positive side of anything, no type of way, just can't find it.
I know, you just looking every time you see him, you be like, oh, here come that negative Nancy.
Exactly.
If the sun is shining today, well, it's gonna rain tomorrow. You
exactly.
Can we just have today? Can we just have today?
Exactly. So it's two things. One is, if that's your habit, like you said, being a negative Nancy or Debbie Downer, if you're that way, just in general through life, it may be a little harder for you to apply that to, positiveness to yourself, because it feels artificial and fake. Like that's not it doesn't mean being who you're not, but it does mean working on some more balance. Everyone's not super sunshine and all that. They may not be your authentic personality, but you can say, well, it's going to rain tomorrow. I sure am thankful I have an umbrella.
Amen.
You can do that. And then the last part of that, as I was mentioning with my husband, what he said to his family members, a couple of cousins that were in that like negative spiral, he gave them this assignment and they did it. So they would get on the phone with him. He says, no, your assignment is to say 5 positive things about your sister. 5 positive things. And they started doing that. Or also they would get on the phone with him and be like, no, tell me 5 positive things before we start. And it was making a difference. So the idea of that applied to ourselves. If you can't if you just can't come up with 5, start with 1. Write down and say 1 positive thing about yourself, and say it, make it just every day, just say it to yourself. And then add a second one. add that feel authentic and real, that you can, sometimes it just starts by just starting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That is wonderful expert advice. And I would just add, when you talked about planning, it's very important. Put it in your schedule. I have a Fitbit. You can set them, your Fitbit, your Apple Watch, whatever you have. They have timers on there where it'll tell you haven't moved in 2 hours. You need to move. You can set that. Those are things that you can do to set the tone of your day. I put in my schedule my own breaks. Need a break, no work, no podcast, no writing, whatever it is. Because if I don't, I will forget, and someone will ask me to do something, or something will come up, and I will inevitably overschedule myself, and then be mad because I overscheduled myself and didn't take the time that I said I was going to take. And then you say to me, well, Kim, you said, and I'm like, yeah, Dr. Angie, but what had happened was.
I can relate. I can relate.
So I stress to our listening audience, get a planner, whatever you use, even if it's just your phone. And I like to write things down, because as I write things down, I can see it. I have a photographic memory. It helps me to remember it. But it also makes it real. So it's not where I'm thinking, okay, on Thursday, I'm going to go and get my favorite coffee drink, and I'm going to take my favorite book, and I'm going to go sit at the park, and I'm going to read my book and drink my coffee, because I'm going to give myself an hour or whatever it is, time to myself. Well, guess what? I didn't write it down. A meeting came up. Somebody called and said, hey, Kim, can you come help? Next thing I know, it's Thursday, and I'm like, dang it, I missed my hour time. How did I do it? Because I didn't write it down. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Just write it however you need to write it down, and leave a note for yourself. Like you said, affirmations, scheduling, even doing a visualization board. A lot of people do that. I do that. So as I look at goals that I want to achieve, it helps me because I can see it. I see it every day. I have affirmations around it. Like, I know I'm going to achieve it. And then as I achieve it, I check it off, remove it, and I put something else up. And it just helps you to move forward in the things that you want to do.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about checking off before you said it. I'm so glad you said that. The writing down, very, very important, like you said. And then that's something about checking that off, that even just the physical nature of that, it feels so good. You can see, like you say, it's tangible, that I got that thing done. Even if I didn't get to everything else, because sometimes we beat ourselves up, I've got a whole list of it. If you did write down so you can see for yourself, oftentimes you find that you got more done than you might think. And oftentimes the things that aren't on the list are still things that, you may not think, you may think this, I don't need to write, I know I already know I've got to do laundry, I've got to blah, blah, blah. But if you did it, it's something, let yourself know that is something positive that you got accomplished today. Because there are days you may not get to the laundry. So it's all, you're moving, you're getting some things done. And like you said, I love that. People use vision boards for their careers, for lots of different things, to use it as well for things you want to accomplish for yourself. Just your own self-growth is equally as important as using those things for, careers and other things. So I love that you added that. So important. So important. Good stuff. So good.
It is good stuff. Dr. Angie, every time we have our podcast, the time just goes by so quick, and our time has passed. And so thank you for talking about let's celebrate and the importance of pouring into ourselves. But now tell us all about your book. Tell us about your music.
Okay.
And you have a 6-week seminar that's going on, or is starting.
I think you're talking about it is part of my company. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
My company is AM May and Associates Incorporated. So that's for my initial, my initial and my sister's initial. So Angela and Michelle May, AM May and Associates Incorporated. My sister, we do counseling, consulting, and coaching. And we do counseling, consulting, coaching, and we do like you said, seminars. We do retreats, just a variety of things to help folks. So there are some things we do together, and then some things we do separately. We both individually do personal, professional coaching. I also do doctorate coaching as well for doctoral students. So what you asked about, I appreciate you bringing it up. This particular one is a retreat that my sister actually is putting together. So you can, to that point, you can go to our website, ammayandassociates.com, to get information not only about the retreat, but also about the coaching that we offer individually, and see other things that are coming up. We also have testimonials on there from people from just all walks of life, fellow creative folks, doctors, who we've been blessed to help. So yes, amaassociates.com. Go to our website if you would for that. And also, I've written it all down this time, so I'm not, what is it? Trying to remember. Okay, so yes, for AMA, our Facebook page is also AMA Associates Incorporated. So look us up there if you would. So yeah, we have things on the horizon. If you are struggling with anything in terms of just the kinds of things we talked about, moving forward, if you're feeling stuck in some way in your personal life or professional life, regardless of the profession, if you need help with time management or any of those kinds of things, or a lot of times people are in transition personally and or professionally. They may be considering a career change, whatever the case may be, or trying to get ideas about what direction they want to go in. Both my sister Michelle and I do professional and personal coaching around that. And if you are a doctorate student, I do that as well. So do keep an eye out on our Facebook page as well, because we do a lot of announcing of things coming up, and you can find out how to hook up with either or both of us if you are interested in some coaching. My book is called Freedom. And the full name is Freedom: What is the Experience of Living Without Negative Self-Imposed Limitations? And sometimes I may read a passage or two from here on your show as you invite me to, which I always very much appreciate. But for today, I was really thinking about how the whole subject of what we talked about today, encompasses the entire point of this book. I titled it Freedom because it really has to do with looking at how we can get free from different areas of our lives in which we may feel stuck, whether it's exactly like you were saying, we just are so down on ourselves and feeling like we're not moving forward with our health goals, or any other aspect of our lives, or if you're feeling stuck, like in your career, or you've been wanting to go back to school, whatever the case may be. This is a book that I did as it was my master's thesis, and I wanted to do one specifically about resilience and how we bounce back and how we grow from things. So I interviewed a handful of people from vastly different backgrounds. And out of those interviews, there were some wonderful themes that came out, 7 key themes that came out of that research about how we can go from feeling stuck to being free from negative self-imposed limitations. And one other thing I'll say about that as well, and that is a lot of times there are very real limitations that the world tries to put on us, absolutely. But as people have said over the years, you can be physically enslaved but mentally free. And the start of pushing back and even thriving sometimes, hopefully, in situations in which, like we just came out of COVID or whatever the case, the beginning of that is to try to find within ourselves that freedom from negative self-imposed limited thinking and being. So you can get the book at Amazon.com. It's in an ebook form, and it's in a paperback, which is what I was showing. You also can get it in hardcover as well from xlibris.com. So all those forms are available at xlibris. So that's XIBRIS No, I'm sorry, XLIBRIS.
Yeah.
Xlibris.com. So Amazon.com or xlibris.com for my book. My CD, I actually have two CDs. I'm going to be re-releasing actually the first one that I did, called No Limits. So you can tell freedom, no limits. There's themes in my music. But the second CD, Reintroducing the Lady, which was released in 2017, that is available on Amazon. So definitely, check that out. I have a song on there that I invited the Detroit Youth Choir to do with me. So they're on that. You can, and as far as I was going to say about social media, you can go to my YouTube channel. On my social media, I'm easy to find with Angela Celeste May. Make it easy. So my YouTube channel is primarily dealing with music, vocal quick tips, because I'm a vocalist. I'm also a multiple instrumentalist and music educator as well, and writer and producer. So you can get vocal quick tips on my YouTube channel and other music related information. My biggest, I guess, eyeballs I've gotten, most popular series that I did is on genres of music. 35 plus thousand people have viewed that and got lots of positive feedback. So people find that very interesting. I recently just added to that. So the genres of music, check that out. And also you can see my official music videos on my YouTube channel. Other social media, Facebook, of course, Angela Celeste May. My professional music Facebook page is Dr.Angela Celeste May. Instagram, same thing. And I'm also on LinkedIn, which I had mentioned before. I'm on LinkedIn. And then Twitter. Twitter's the only one with a different name. It's Celeste and then MUS, short for music. So Celeste, MUS, and the number 1 on Twitter. So I'm out there. Thank you.
Fantastic. You do so much, Dr. Angie. We're so proud of you. And we just want to make sure we share.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, July is quickly coming to an end. However, we still have a couple of days left. So continue to celebrate.
Absolutely.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. And happy birthday to you as well.
Thank you. So just continue to celebrate. Take care of yourself. Self-care is vital. It is not something that you can say no to. It is something that is vitally necessary for your health.
That's so true.
So thank you again, Dr. Angie. I hope that next month we'll have another exciting topic. I know that we will. And we'll be talking again.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning into the Kim B. Davis Show. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn at Kimberly Batchelor Davis. Bachelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can see this show on youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google. And you can also find out more about me as an author at kimbdavis.com. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope to see you on our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.